My name is Travis. For those of you that are new to our channel or just checking this out because you're getting ready for your first time lambing maybe, or just trying to figure out how you could lamb better, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Before we get into the details, just to give you an idea of where our farm is at. So we are a small farm. We have 77 acres that we started 5 years ago. We started with 3 sheep. We've grown to 160, and you can probably see them all right behind me over here. I say that because we are not a huge commercial operation, but we're also not a hobby farm. So everything that we're talking about is stuff that is going to be kind of, not necessarily driven towards a commercial operation, but also not necessarily driven towards a hobbyist. This is just what we have found that helps us with larger numbers of lambs being born. I just disturbed all of them, but I wanted to show you kind of where they live throughout the year. So 9 months of the year, they are out here on pasture until lambing time hits. Once lambing time hits, well, let me show you. This may be a popular or unpopular opinion. However, understand that everything that we're showing you on our farm works well for our farm. And it's not going to be the magic solution or the fit for every farm. Every operation is different. There's a lot of different aspects and resources that go into every farm. So for us as a first generation farm, this is what works for us. With that being said, welcome to our lambing barn. This is a 40-foot by 140-foot barn that my wife and I built. And yes, I mean built ourselves, like we actually built this building that you see all around me. The only thing we hired out was the concrete work. Everything else was done by us. We have a creep feed set up right here behind me, and then over here on this side, we have what we call the special needs pens. Some would call them jugs, but honestly, we really don't use them as much as what you would expect. That's why there's only 3. And they are very large because sometimes we do put more than one mom in there. It just kind of depends on the situations that are going on. Regardless to what all the situations that may or may not go on in the lambing barn, is kind of the products or the certain items that we want on hand every time that we lamb. And we actually keep these on hand year round because we don't pull our rams. They're in here year round with the flock. The only time the rams change out is in the spring, because when that lambing crop has hit the ground, the ones that were here, so the fathers of that lambing group, we don't want them to be able to have the chance to breed their daughters back in the fall or in the late summer. So they do leave around April, and then we still might have the possibility of some late lambs being born, and we're okay with that. Now let's get into the tools that really help our lambing season go smoother. The first and foremost one is we're going to talk about our tags. So the tags that we have this year are not really different in the aspect that we didn't tag before. We've tagged all of our animals, and I think we're at number 460 roughly on our scrapie tag numbers. A few things have changed with it because the main flock is white, and that is how all the way up through 460, actually through 600 is what we have. And we're going to keep those tags and still use them. But what I want to start doing is the ewe lambs that are born this year, they're going to get a 23,000 tag number. So it would be 23,001 or 23,002, whatever the number may be. Lets us be able to just walk up to an animal and be like, oh, 23,000, okay, yeah, that's right. She was born in 2023. Very simple, right? We both have full-time jobs that keep us away from the farm during the day. That's okay, because we have programs and protocols in place that help us to make manageable for us to be gone for that long. Well, when we get home in the afternoons or the evenings, it's easy for us to come in here and see who the new lambs are born, because every lamb that's born, or lambs that are born that day, we tag before the end of the day. And we do that just because it makes our life simpler. We know who is born, we know who the moms are, everything is easy to actually tag and document. What's different about the way we're doing it this year is this. We are going to change the concept. So we used to actually tag animals, and then come closer to market time in the spring, we would go through and we'd mark them with a wax marker or the rattle cans that Premier sells. Basically, marking an animal is whether it's male or female, because the females almost always stay. There's very few instances where we don't keep them. Now, as we get to the 350 we want to grow to, we will be more and more selective about what animals are staying female-wise. But all the ram lambs leave, so we have to go through all of our lambing crop and sort them off, mark all the males, and any females that may or may not need to leave. If they have to leave, they get marked as well. I don't want to have to go through that and do it by hand anymore. So I kind of got to thinking that, hey, you know, if I got certain ear tags, so let's say red for ram lambs, and I got, you know, yellow for any ewe lambs that are not staying. My goal was to keep the main flock white. I want to keep that white tag because it's easy for me to see the numbers. That's why we keep that tag. So that won't change. The next thing is that if we have to pull lambs, right? Sometimes our lambs get too big in the womb for the mom to pass, especially on the first-time mom. If she gets bred a little earlier than anticipated, that may happen. We want to ensure that we have a safe and hygienic way to be able to pull those lambs to make sure that we minimize the chance of infection for mom and that we get the lamb out safely so that both mom and baby end up healthy. And we do that with certain OB gloves, essentially, or OB sleeves. So they're plastic gloves that go all the way up your arm. And then we also have some super lube to aid in that process to bring our hands in there and try to make it as comfortable as possible for the mom. Other things that we like to keep on hand, we don't castrate any of our males. None of our males that are born are castrated. However, the same tool that you use to castrate is also the same tool that we use to put, if we're going to dock a tail. So we can put a band on a tail if we want to dock it, make it shorter. Now, we don't dock tails really ever because we don't have issues with fly strike. Not saying we won't, but we do like to have everything on hand just in case for some reason we need to castrate somebody. You know, if a birth defect, his testicles are hanging out or something of that nature, and we can save that lamb at least. Like I mentioned, it's not as simple for us to just run to the store and get things like it would be if we had cattle, because we don't live in a sheep-rich environment. We live in a cattle-rich environment. So those kinds of things really do help to make sure that we have them on hand, because if we need them now, and we don't necessarily have time to wait a day or two for shipping. Lambing tubers are very important as well. If we don't keep tubing materials on hand, like I said, we're gone at work all day. My wife and I both work full-time jobs. We're not at home all day. So we work full-time jobs, come home, do farm stuff, you know, get our kids and everything taken care of, maybe come out and do more farm stuff after the kids are in bed, and then we go to bed and wake up and do the whole cycle again the next day. So tubing is important because if we're gone all day, you know, and a lamb just doesn't look good or she's really struggling, it's good that we have a way to get nutrients into them and quickly, so that one, if they're not swallowing well, they don't end up getting it into their lungs. Two, we ensure that the chances of them surviving are much higher because we have everything we need to save their life. Same thing with colostrum replacer. We keep that on hand. We keep, you know, different variations of the tubing tools on hand because different ones have different purposes. If, you know, we have a lamb that, say we want to really monitor and make sure that not a lot goes in, we might use the syringe style so that it doesn't just flow in. Other things that do happen, hopefully they don't happen enough that we ever need it. Currently we still have it in the package and we haven't opened it. You'll notice that almost all this stuff is still in the package and we only open these things as needed. But if a mother is, you know, getting close to that time to give birth and she prolapses, or she prolapses while she's giving birth, we have a way, a harness and some other tools that help us to be able to put that back and get her in better health and keep her safe and alive and well until we can get the issue resolved. So these tools are kept on hand for the emergency need of having them. All this stuff is like that. If we need it, we need it. And then we also have lamb starter, and that's really going to play into more for those that are an orphaned lamb. All the others actually stay over here, and you know they have free access to come in and out and go in to get whatever they want from the creep feeder. Now, this is not like stocked all the way full, but there's more than enough that's in there that they can get the grain and everything as they need it and as they see fit. They are limited to the extent so they can't just like bloat and pop, right? But they all do have access to that. But the lamb feeder, or sorry, the starter feed is more for along lines of this. And right here is what we get from Premier, and actually we have the others put away right now, but they go on the inside of these pins so that we can put grain in here for moms when they're in here, or if we have orphans that are being raised, this is actually what we put all of their starter feed in to ensure that they're getting creep feed as well. Is a lot different than our creep feed. It's medicated, and the reason that we don't feed the medicated stuff to the general population lambs, so the ones that are on mom all the time, is because mom is actually medicating those lambs through her milk. She's passing on antibodies and other nutrition that they are simply not going to get from the creep feed by itself. Whereas the orphans don't have mom to pass that on. And if I fed them the same creep feed, it really wouldn't do them any justice. I mean, it's giving them nutrients, but it's not giving them antibodies and other substances that mom is producing for the actual lamb that she's growing. So that is why we use that specific thing just for orphan lambs. You may have also noticed that we have these giant hay racks here, and these are designed to hold 3 of those 5x5 bales there behind you that you seen earlier when we kind of showed you the barn. They work great for that. What doesn't work so well for them is we actually replaced these panels this year, but we actually had holes that we'd cut some of these out. And what happened was, because these are so thin and they're much easier to manipulate, especially when you start taking pieces out of them, it bent them. And I actually still have one over here that I can show you. So stuff like this is what happens when you let the sheep kind of have free rein with it. And they've busted things off and kind of, they're a little rougher than I ever expected them to be with these hog panels. Fortunately, you don't have to go through all the effort like we did and build your own hay feeders. With all that being said, that's most of the lambing importance. However, since we're in the barn, I wanted to show one other important system. This is our feed trough, essentially. Since we're in the barn, and I've already showed you everything that we really need for lambing and always keep on hand for lambing, I wanted to go ahead and show you one more thing. Now, we made this hay rack that you see right here behind me, and it serves its purpose very well for us on our farm. It essentially holds 3 of these 5x5 round bales that you see down here at the other end. However, Premier One has something that I found very interesting, and before I really show it to you, I wanted to show you this. So we've got a similar concept made for our feeders. So there's a large square cut out of this hog panel all the way down so that the animals can eat out of it easily and not catch their heads on it or their ear tags. Everything's buzzed off and smooth, right? You can see it's kind of a little bit flexible. These are the panels that Premier One has, and they're actually used for bales. So they have a round bale or a large bale feeder. I think it might be called a round bale feeder for them. And it's got these nice spiral hinges that go with it, so you could I don't have it set up all the way because this isn't what I actually bought it for, but I figured I'd show you how and what it would actually work well for. So essentially you set your round bale inside of here, and once you get it all set in there and kind of what you want, put your round bale in there, and your animals can obviously reach through here and eat and, you know, have a meal. And all their, not mess, but all the residue is kind of contained and they don't make such a mess out of it. I like that a lot better because these, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but substantially thicker than what the hog panels are that we bought and made ours out of. Now, I understand that not everybody is going to have a welder, and not everybody even knows how to weld. So building your own like we did is not necessarily the answer for everybody. However, the round bale feeders that Premier One has might be the solution for you guys. I just showed it because it might be something handy for others. I didn't put this all the way together because, like I said, that's just not what I'm intending to use it for. What I want to use it for is my end caps on here so that I don't have to worry about animals being able to get in here or a bale being able to come out of it and potentially collapse on somebody else or one of the animals around it. So overall though, this is what we do for lambing season. This is how easy it is for us to set up, and we're always ready for it, like I said, year round. And I do encourage everybody to kind of be in that position. The convenience of being ready essentially is because unless you're pulling the lambs or the rams all the time and only introducing them at certain times so that all your lambs are born at the same time, that's an issue that you're going to run into. If you're like us, where I don't really care when they lamb, but when they lamb specifically in wintertime, it will be in here because it's easy and it's a controlled environment for me. In the spring and summer when they lamb out on pasture, it's actually not too bad because we have a guard dog, we have really good fencing that we put up, and everything is kind of in our favor at that point because all their food and everything else as far as the pasture, everything is there and they're getting all the nutrients they really need, plus they have a mineral that's always available. Yeah, so just wanted to show it. Hopefully it'll help others. I don't know that it will, but I felt like maybe it would because I would have appreciated a video like this whenever we were starting out. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe especially if you got this far in the video, you must have liked it. And then, of course, like the video as well. So thank you. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time.